Puzzle games. While never quite as popular as other genres like the platformer, shooter, or fighters among the arcade scene, they always provided an atmosphere and presentation that spoke to the very inner workings of the human mind. Problem solving is part of our very drive to confront and approach things, whether that be something normal in our lives and finding a solution to an issue we are struggling with, or finding the solution in the most optimal way. Problem solving is fundamental to everyday living. And it is done in millions of ways within video gaming. But when it comes to the puzzler genre, it brings with it a drive we all carry within. One would think that would make this genre more popular, but the other fundamental key about problem solving comes with it a reason to bother. And within entertainment, that reason has to be fun and has to be a brain exercise of self-improvement. An inherent motivation that you can solve it and that it will be worth the problem-solving energy that you'll use to reach its solution as good old endorphins launching your brain from the effort and satisfaction that you solved it. Testing and bending your own mind to see the code. It's what makes puzzles in video games so satisfying and why they are still implemented in many games today. A Rubik's Cube is a fine example of this, with an easy accessibility that within minutes or even seconds you understand how it functions, and with time can practice seeing the patterns and movements necessary to solve the puzzle. But it doesn't end there. This practical toy has reached beyond its simple purpose, with competitions and records being broken, involving not just solving the cube, but doing it the fastest, where simply testing and bending your mind to fit the solution are the basics, and your precision, reflexes, and dexterity in handling the cube are advanced techniques. Now, just so there isn't any confusion, I am going to clarify the genre I'm about to jump into. There are terms like puzzle game, puzzler game, and versus puzzler. Puzzle game is more of an umbrella term, indicating a puzzle-solving element within the game. These can be games like adventure or even point-and-click games, where you are solving an abstract or practical puzzle, like getting a special key to unlock a door. A puzzler is typically a game that is solely puzzle-solving with blocks, bubbles, or even math. A versus puzzler are games that are already puzzlers, but with the competitive element of facing an opponent. It's common to see puzzle games and puzzlers labeled interchangeably, and I do this sometimes myself when describing these games to other people, but I think it's important to know the distinction if you are comparing them. Today, I have a puzzler that I feel employs this approach to puzzle video games, taking a simple and approachable concept that is the puzzler genre, and morphing it into not only a game about speed, reaction time, and quick pattern reading, but also on the competitive level, challenging other players to the same test to outspeed or to outsmart your opponent. That game is Magical Drop. Join me as we explore not just what Magical Drop is and what it involves, but the developers behind it, its few yet important entries in the series, and where it stands today. Grab a snack or a drink because this one's gonna be beefy. This is the introductory part of a multi-part series on Magical Drop. With this video being only the intro, I will not be focusing on any of the games with the exception of what Magical Drop is in general. Beyond that, the later parts of the series will touch upon each game in depth. I'm going to first be diving briefly into the developer, Data East, but quickly move on to discussing the well-known and successful competitors of the genre, to give you an idea of what Magical Drop was already up against, and to give some perspective on the nuanced differences between these games. That way, we will be on the same page for when we do dive into each Magical Drop release. Data East Corporation. You may have played one of Data East's games before, with enjoyable yet mildly popular known games like Burger Time, or Joe and Mac. Both games fun in their own right, but they are also responsible for the cult hit Windjammers. Beyond that though, they handle ports of other games to bring to home consoles, and other regions like Rampage on the NES or Shadowrun on Super Nintendo. They even took a stab at a mascot platformer themselves, with High Seas Havoc on the Sega Genesis, literally the same console that Sega's Sonic dominated. But aside from their hit Windjammers, Magical Drop was their winning formula, carving out a niche that, while nowhere near as big as other classics, still manages to maintain a strong and passionate following. But, as I said, I cannot yet get into Magical Drop without speaking on its more popular and successful competitors. So, having said that, let's jump into it. There was, of course, the penultimate classic, Tetris, originally created by Alexei Pajitnov in 1984 and later released popularly by Nintendo in 1989. Tetris which, while having competitive variations, was primarily played in solitude by many. There was also Puyo Puyo, released in 1991. It was developed by Compile, which was then later acquired by Sega and Sonic Team. Introducing a small cast of characters from a previous Compile series named Madou Monogatari, which starred magical girl Aurel in a cutesy yet sometimes disturbing RPG. But now her and the characters of those games were repurposed for this puzzler series and haven't returned since. Puyo Puyo popularized versus puzzlers with their color match system and gravity falling chain mechanics. Then there was Bust a Move, or Puzzle Bobble, created by Taito in 1994. It was a spin-off series of Bubble Bobble that was also a versus puzzler, using a shooting mechanic instead of directly controlling block placement, along with starring the Bubble Bobble characters and some fresh faces each entry. Lastly, we even had Capcom enter the ring of puzzlers, despite already having a dominant presence in arcades with Street Fighter. So what did they do? They made a Street Fighter puzzle spin-off, appropriately named Puzzle Fighter in 1996, which used a subtly different yet surprisingly deep 2-block and 2-color match system. These were practically titans in this genre, and looking at Magical Drop initially, especially when only viewing screenshots, it doesn't really seem all that special or different. I bring this up because for the longest time I had not even bothered to even try the series until I was exploring Data East's catalog of developed video games. I was, and have always been, a Puyo Puyo guy, because I like the competitive elements of the series despite my complete lack of skill at them, as well as the colorful and funny cast of characters and its strange and nonsensical world. I still find them fun and still consider it to be the best puzzle game to play with a group of people. I like Tetris, but only really enjoy it in that versus setting, which is why to me, Puyo Puyo Tetris, whether that be the first or second, will always be one of the best when it comes to multiplayer puzzle action. Puyo Puyo is a 4-color matching puzzler. You match 4 of the same color, and the Puyos pop. Creating proper stacks, you can actually pop more than just once, creating a chain. However, in regards to that, Puyo Puyo is still far more methodical, and gives each player enough time to consider their options and what steps to take to solve their boards, due to the game's fundamentals in how it handles garbage, which are the problem blocks that get in the way of your opponent's board. As the colors slowly drop, there is a multitude of moves that can be done to send garbage to your opponent's board, as clearing your board in chains or combos creates garbage Puyos on the ceiling of your opponent that will fall the moment they finish placing their active Puyo blob. The garbage Puyo mechanic gives them more difficulty fighting back, and managing high chain combos requires a level of attention and focus I definitely lack most of the time. Truth be told, I'm actually better at Tetris, but I find the Puyo side of gameplay and its mechanics more enjoyable. I like color matching puzzle games. Maybe you have played the popular mobile game Candy Crush? Tetris is primarily about block arrangement, which while it makes for the most accessible puzzle video game on the planet, as colors are not a factor within the gameplay, only shapes, it makes for speed being a primary factor amongst higher level players. Have you seen a Grandmaster play Tetris? It's so phenomenal and beyond human that they can play it when the blocks and board are invisible, retaining only memory of what is on the board as they get a split second of the outline of what is on the top when they make a combo. Puyo Puyo's approach to this manages not just speed, but planning and pattern sight reading. Being able to look at a Puyo arrangement and knowing the fewest yet most optimal steps to take next, then doing those steps as quickly as possible, is a decent start to competitive level play, and is a key difference from Tetris that is about clearing the most blocks of the Tetraminos as many times in a row as possible. Since in Tetris, you cannot chain blocks to fall and create continuous combos automatically. You have to manually arrange your Tetraminos so that when the opportunity strikes, you can clear rows and rows one after another. It is why you will commonly see players leave a single column open while holding the light blue vertical line Tetramino, so that they can swiftly clear multiple rows in one move. So in a way it is comboing, but more like manual comboing, as you are the one in control of how quickly these combos occur, rather than Puyo Puyo's falling mechanic, dropping the stacks of Puyos down the rows that you have meticulously built up. Bust a Move I have the least amount of enjoyment with, and while there exist many 2 to 4 player versions of the games, I have always struggled to aim that pointer and shoot the bubbles exactly as I wanted. and no matter how often I try playing the games, I still cannot hit those damn bubbles to match. But essentially, in these games, you shoot the bubble with a pointer, and if it connects to an arrangement matching 3 or more of the same color, it pops, and any colors below that arrangement will pop with it, which creates the combos. In versus play, garbage you send to the player from these combos will further push more and more bubbles they will have to deal with, much like Puyo Puyo that creates garbage Puyos on the ceiling that are about to fall once your opponent makes their next move. I like the idea of bust a move, but its execution leaves a lot to be desired for me, though I am aware it has a strong and passionate following. Super Puzzle Fighter is actually really fun, though it does have a lot of differences that set it apart from the previously mentioned versus puzzlers. Where the previous games had you match 3 of the same color with the same blocks, in this game you instead have a separation of what they call gems that combine and ones that destroy. You are forming differently sized gems with the hope of breaking them with a crushing gem of the same color. This fundamentally changes how you build up your stacks compared to something like Puyo Puyo, and it turns out to be very enjoyable, especially since you only need 2 of the same color to break a gem. However, despite being pretty simple at first, it quickly becomes very difficult to keep up with how you want to build your stacks, while also managing the countdown garbage gems that get in your way. So while simple to understand at first, it quickly becomes complex, though with time and practice you eventually get a flow going. It even got an HD remix for the Xbox 360 that included a 4-player mode through online play. If you are at all curious about high-level play and the skill ceilings that these games provide, I strongly urge you to check out some videos of pro players going at it. It's fascinating to watch their minds at work with these action puzzle games. So, where does that leave Magical Drop? In reality, Magical Drop is a bit of a combination of differing elements from all of these games, and its unique execution of its ideas is what truly makes it stand out, and what makes it incredibly engaging. I always hear the compliment people offer the previously mentioned puzzle games with a just one more mentality. But I think Magical Drop is the first to truly make me feel that way about a versus puzzler. What I like most about Magical Drop is that it doesn't require the level of pattern sight reading as games like Puyo Puyo, nor the planning and arrangement that Tetris provides. And that is solely due to how fast the game moves. There just isn't enough time to look at the board and cleanly plan every move as methodically as those games. Now that's not to say it's not possible, as with enough practice and play experience, you will pick up on patterns and how to approach them, but it's not required to do really well at the game. This is a game about speed and precision, and while the other puzzle games can provide a relaxing brain tease of a play session, Magical Drop brings forth intensity and demands your full attention to stand a chance. Now I don't mean to make it sound intimidating because it is still approachable and easy to understand and play, but it's not too surprising that it didn't pick up the same steam as its competitors that allow for time to be taken to solve the puzzles against their opposition. But the execution in this simplicity is its greatest strength in what the series built among its sequels. Now, the mechanics change depending which entry of the series you play, but for the general explanation I'll be giving the gist of Magical Drop 3, as it's not only the most popular Magical Drop game, but the primary game used for competitive play. In Magical Drop, you control a clown, or as some versions call it, a Perio or Jester. Peria? I think that's how it's pronounced. With the ability to move left and right on the board, and catch and throw what the series calls balloons. Matching 3 balloons of the same color will clear it, while also clearing the same colors next to it. You can only trigger a clear of balloons vertically in this game. There are no horizontal or diagonal clears. It must be vertically triggered first before any matching colors next to them can burst with it. The balloons will then fall upward with any other colors stacking below them to trigger a chain if more matching balloon colors burst. This chain will then send garbage balloons to your opponent, but with the twist that whatever character you selected determines the pattern and color arrangement of garbage your opponent will receive. Another spin to this is that your chain can be controlled beyond just letting the balloons rise. If you are quick enough, you can trigger a second balloon burst during the time the first burst is occurring, giving you a tiny window of opportunity to stack the chains without having to arrange any of the balloons beforehand. You can also grab and hold as many balloons of the same color as you want, meaning you can literally hold a chain waiting in your hand before unleashing it. Essentially, this means that you do not have to sight read the patterns or arrangements to keep up with your opponent, and there are advantages and disadvantages to bursting a long chain and a short one. In addition to this, victory is achieved by one of two methods: overwhelming your opponent's board with garbage so that it hits the floor, or reaching what the game calls a quota before your opponent. The quota is the amount of balloons needed to be burst to reach an automatic victory, which encourages larger chains or simpler play. While Puyo Puyo, Bust a Move, and much later, Tetris has characters you can select that also come with their flair special abilities to add a spin to their modern incarnations, Magical Drop began with a focus on character selection, which not just determines what your advantages and disadvantages are, but also come with their own personality and quirks that have become a mainstay for the series. I love these characters, and what makes Magical Drop stand out visually is their animations that play on your side of the board as you manage the balloons. I mean, look at the animation! Look at the animation! Look at the So, to put it simply, this is an intense puzzle action game focused on quick reactions and precision as you move your clown frantically back and forth, catching and throwing balloons to pop as many as you can against your opponent. And the way these series of games evolve to eventually become what most of the fan community plays today is what I'll be focusing on in this series of videos. So in the next video, part 1, we will be diving into Magical Drop 1. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time. Bye!